And TV shows don't necessarily make you an expert, just clarifying here. Nor does Reddit, nor does Google, nor does a magazine article, right? We find there's, you'll find amongst the guys that I mentioned earlier, the Superbird experts, you'll find that there's a lot of us that really get ticked by some of the numbers that are thrown out there from people that they just don't have a clue. Hi everyone, my name is Bob Jennings. I'm the owner and founder of Jennings Wing Cars. With the proliferation of information available on Superbirds, particularly on the internet, I thought maybe it's time to have a definitive reference video of Superbird information. Now, an acknowledged expert, I'll give him credibility, is a guy named Dave Wise. Dave is kind of the guy that comes in and verifies these. Yes, there's other people. I use Dave exclusively, and he'll come in and examine our cars. We've had him do all but one. The one that you might see over here behind me is our newest, the final color, our V2 Orange. And he hasn't examined that one yet, but it is numbers matching. But he is an acknowledged expert. There are other experts out there. Your number one source of information is the aerowarriors.com website. Doug Schellinger, whose dad and Doug have maintained the website for years and years and is an acknowledged expert. Brennan Cook, B.R. Cook out of South Dakota, provides wonderful information on his website, particularly about Petty Blue Superbirds. Dan Pausch, very good, knowledgeable information, has corrected me once or twice over the years on mistakes I have made. And John Borsich, this is not a definitive list, but it's a list of additional people that are out there. You'll notice some people who are absent from that list. My name is Bob Jennings, and you may wonder, why do I consider myself an expert? I don't. I consider myself very knowledgeable, but I also want to dispel so many of the bad bits of information that are coming out there on the internet. Very quickly, my bona fides, I wasn't a rich guy. In the early 1970s, I began working in a service and parts department of Chrysler Plymouth, and worked there while I went to college at night, and worked there for a number of years till I graduated college. And over the years, I built a business, and as the business built, I wanted to go back to the early days. Yes, like many of you, I own many different cars. My first car was a 1970 Hemi Roadrunner, first Plymouth car, let me clarify. And I've been here, there, and everywhere, but I've come back to them. Today, Jennings Wing Cars, I have 8 Superbirds. I have 2 Daytonas. We have all the engine models, but that's the bona fides. As an accountant by training now, you tend to stick with a lot of technical aspects, so there's a lot of bad information on the internet, and let's see if we can clear it up. Now let's start with the number of Superbirds made. You need to understand, none of these numbers are absolute 100% set in stone. I am going to make some mistakes. I'm going to try to clarify them, but there is so much bad information. Let's try to figure them out. The best number of Superbirds made is 1,935 of them. All right, so 1,935 Superbirds made. Out of those, now I'm looking at my notes because I don't want to make any mistakes, there were best numbers available, 135 Hemi Superbirds made, of which 58 were 4-speeds, 77 were automatics. There were 716 6-barrel or 3 Holley 2-barrel Superbirds made, of which 408 were estimated automatics, 308 4-speeds, and finally, there were a little over 1,000 444-barrel Superbirds made, a little more automatic, 600 automatics, and about 400 4-speeds. And if you add all that up, that's about 1,935 Superbirds that were made. Now let's talk colors for a minute. There were 7 official colors of Superbirds made. And I'll get into that here for a second, but I want you clear, there's 7 official colors that Superbird, you could buy a Superbird in. Let me go through these. The number 1 most popular Superbird was called the FY1 or Y1 is called a lemon twist yellow here in the shop. We, by the way, here at Jennings Wing Cars, we have one of all 7 official Superbird colors made. But the most common one is the lemon twist yellow Superbird, estimated at 450 of them. The second most common one is the alpine white Superbird. That's the one I've driven to Alaska a couple of times. That is paint code EW1. The least common Superbird color made is the Corporation or Petty Blue one. Estimated about 50 of those made. And by the way, I didn't give you the numbers, I don't think. About 450 yellow, 330 white, 310 vitamin C orange, that's paint code EK2. And then you go down to about 275 Tor red, that's called code EV2. About 275 EB5 blue fire metallics, and then down to the least common other than the petty blue, about 210 limelight green or FJ5 Superbirds made. So your 7 official colors: alpine white, blue fire metallic, Corporation or Petty Blue, lemon twist yellow, limelight green, Tor red, and vitamin C orange. The least common, the Corporation or Petty Blue, paint code 999 with a special code to the side of it I've talked about in some of our other videos. Most common is the lemon twist yellow. Okay, let's talk about one other feature on the exterior. All Superbirds were made with a black vinyl top. If someone claims that their Superbird was made without one, none has ever been proven to be so. And I'm uncomfortable saying that it never happened, but I'm pretty comfortable on this one. All Superbirds made for public consumption have a black vinyl top. No other vinyl tops were available. All Superbirds made for general public consumption had power front disc brakes. There were no drum brake front Superbirds made. Now with a Daytona in '69, you could get discs or drums. In fact, I have a Hemi drum one back there in the corner, but all Superbirds have power disc brakes and vinyl tops. All interiors of Superbirds, there's 2 colors available, black or white. Both black and white came in a bench seat or a bucket seat. And you could get the bucket seat with or without a center console. As far as which one is the most in demand, it appears that buyers want bucket seats, and it appears that they pretty much want consoles, at least based on resale prices. Bob, do you have a preference yourself with so many of them here? I'd rather have bucket seats with a console myself. Do we have some bench seats here? Yeah, of course. Now, as far as transmissions, there were 2. There was the TorqueFlite automatic, which could be a console shifted floor-mounted automatic, or it might be a column shift. Or you could get the 4-speed, with or without a console. As far as rear ends, you had the standard rear end, was called the 8 3/4 rear end. It came with a 355 gear ratio as standard. The Track Pack Standard Edition, which is a little higher, came with a Dana 9 3/4 rear end, and that was a 354-to-1 rear gear standard. Now you could get other gears, I'm not getting into all those, but there were the rear ends that were available. Let's talk engines for a minute. There were 3 engines available for the Superbird. There was a 446 barrel, and I already gave you the numbers, about 700 of them made. A 6 barrel refers to 3 2-barrel Holley carburetors. We have, here in the shop, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, are 446 barrels, all right? The most common engine was the 444 barrel. If you want horsepower differences, the 6 barrel was 390 horse, the 4 barrel was 375. A little higher compression on the 6-pack, or 6 barrel, for you purists, I don't really care, all right? But the 6 barrel had 390, the 4 barrel had 375. Now the rarest of all, of course, was the 426 Hemi. And yes, you could get an automatic or a 4-speed. Ours here in the shop is an automatic. The 426 Hemi had 425 horse. And let's see, it ran actually a little bit lower compression than the 6 barrel, but well tuned, it was a better engine. As someone who was a mechanic on these cars way back in the day, I will tell you, for the Hemi to get the power that was claimed, you had to have that thing tuned all the time. In 1970, the Hemi went to hydraulic lifters, so at least you didn't have to adjust the valves every week like in '69 and prior, where they were solid lifters, but you did have to, they just ate spark plugs. And the Hemi had 2 4-barrel carburetors on it, and you had to constantly be messing with that and the timing, and it had a dual point distributor. By the way, both the 446 barrel and the 426 Hemi had a cast iron Prestolite, and there's a rumor there's some Chrysler ones, but all of the distributors in the Hemis and the 6 barrels were dual point distributors, kind of hard to set, and all the distributors in the 4 barrels were single point distributor. A lot of guys have gone to a Pertronics or electronic ignition today. The dual point distributors were a little bit more difficult to deal with. All right, let's talk about wheels. All kinds of rumors out here. We're going to have to break this into categories. Let's start with tires. There were 3 different tires available with the Superbird. There is the F7014 polyglass raised white letter. And let's see, there's F60s there. Those are aftermarkets. I'm sure I got some F7014s around here somewhere. Actually, there's some right here on the wall behind me, if I remember right. All right, those were a standard tire, or you could get an F7014 white wall. And it didn't really seem to matter which wheel. You could mix and match tires and wheels. As an option, you could get an F60 15 polyglass raised white letter. There's one over here on the yellow Superbird behind our camera here today. Now let's talk about wheels. There were 5 different wheels. There's a 14 by 5.5 inch Magnum 500, and if you're looking closely, they have a what do you call that? A brushed aluminum trim ring. It's on the floor here behind me on this car. Now, in the black Superbird above it, that's a chrome Magnum. That's not a factory wheel. That is an aftermarket, had a little bit of pizzazz with it, but that's not a factory wheel. All right, that was wheel 1. They also had a 14 by 6 rally wheel, which I know I've got one here, but it's sitting on the lift behind you there, Jason. That's the rally wheel, for a picture of that here in a bit. They also had a 14 by 6 inch stamped steel wheel, which came with what's called a dog dish hubcap, and that takes care of the 14 inch ones. Now you had 2 15-inch wheels. You could get a 15 by 7 rally, or you could get a 15 by 7 stamped wheel that is just a steel wheel with a dog dish hubcap. So there are your wheel differences on the Superbirds. Let me see what else I wanted to mention here. Pause. When you're looking at buying a Superbird, there's a couple of key things that a good, knowledgeable person looks for. They don't all have them. You want what's called a broadcast, or some people call it a build sheet. You can't always find them. I have 2 cars I don't have a broadcast sheet on. One of them I know what happened to it. The green one on the lift behind the camera, the mice ate it. Why? Because we could find little pieces of it, and the mice had eaten up everything in that car. All right? My white car that I've driven to Alaska, I don't have a broadcast sheet. It's not a hugely important thing, but it's sure nice to have it, broadcast or a build sheet. We do have to have, or really want to have, a fender tag. That's mounted on the driver's side, under the hood, near the front of the fender, and that fender tag has the common codes the car came with. The engine size. For example, the serial number on a Superbird starts with RM23. If it's followed by a U, that's a 444 barrel. If it's followed by an R, that's a Hemi. And if it's followed by a V, as in Victor, that is a 446 barrel on the fender tag. After the fender tag, the RM23, there is a serial number, if you wish. That serial number is stamped on a transmission on the passenger side. There's a little plate down there. And then on the engine, these are hard to find, but you can find them. It's also stamped on the engine. When you hear matching numbers car, we are generally referring to it's got the original engine and the original transmission as verified by the serial numbers. The overall length of the Superbird. Now, if you want to argue with me, I got 8 of them here in the shop. All right, I think I got this. The Superbird is 18 feet 5 inches long, nose to back of bumper. It's not 18.4 and it's not 20, but I'll tell you, you need a minimum 20-foot trailer. Been there, done that, you need a 20-foot trailer. It is approximately 6.5 feet wide. I've rounded up, all right, it's like 6 feet 4 1/4 inches or something like that, but 6.5 feet wide. And the highest point of a Superbird from the bottom of the tire to the top of the rear wing is 5 feet 2 inches tall. Gas tank on a Superbird is the same as for a Roadrunner, holds 19 gallons of gas. The wing is exactly 2 feet above the trunk. Top of the trunk to the bottom of the wing is 2 feet. That is to get the wing up in clean air coming off of the roof. You may have heard rumors, well, it's to get height for lifting the trunk. No, these cars were built for NASCAR. It was to get up the wing up into the clean air up above. The cars weighed, according to Chrysler, as shipped, about 3,800 pounds. A Hemi goes about 250 pounds more. Now, the Hemi Superbird I have here, I actually took it to scales, commercially certified scales, and it came in at 4,025 pounds sitting on the scales. So about 4,000 pounds for a Hemi and about 3,785 for a 440, whether it's a 6-barrel or a 4-barrel. Finally, the original price on a Superbird, manufacturer's suggested retail was $4,298. $4,298. Now, all Superbirds show what's called a build date of November 30th, 1969. They all show that, but it's the actual production ranged, I want to make sure we're correct. They started making them on October 22nd of 69. They completed making them on December 15th of 1969. Final bit of statistics, and then we'll throw in a couple of other features here for you. According to Road Test Magazine, 0 to 60 time in 1970 was 5.5 seconds to go to 60 miles an hour. You think about it, 4,000-pound car, 55 years ago, that's a hell of a car. And it's got a little extra weight with those wings and that killer nose. By the way, the nose is not fiberglass, it's steel. All right, it's steel. It's not aluminum, it's steel. All right, the wing on the back, that is a, what's the word? It's a, what do they call it when they pour aluminum? It's a cast aluminum rear wing. There are some people that make reproductions of those. I don't have any of those, so I can't verify their accuracy. Now, finally, let's talk about options. Matt, our kind of shop foreman here at Jennings Wing Cars, Matt was asking me, he said, Bob, what about options? When you got a Superbird, could you order the options you wanted? Technically, yes. Technically. Practically, next to impossible, because they were just rolling these out as quick as they could. I would imagine it would have been awful hard to order one back at that time. We have here in our shop, we've got some weird options. I know of at least 4 different steering wheels you could get. You could get a black grain plastic, and I've got that on the black one up there. You could get a black with a steel kind of 3-spoke wheel. You could get a wood grain, and you could get a rim blow. And I have one rim blow. I've only seen one other rim blow Superbird. But you could get those as options. What about your weird things? What about seats? You could get a 6-way seat or a standard seat. I'm not aware of any power seat Superbirds. I may be corrected on that. I'm not aware of any. You aware of any on that, Matt? What about power windows? I don't know if I've ever seen one. I'm not aware of any power windows. You could get them in the year before on Daytonas, but not on Superbirds. What about mirrors? That's a weird one. On the driver's side, you could get the manually adjusted mirror, or you could get the remote inside adjusted one. That one's electronic. It's got some steel cables that go out and adjust it. It's very rare, but we have one here in the shop. You could get a passenger side mirror. Only one I've seen is our Petty Blue one over here, which is the most highly optioned Superbird we have. But as far as options, that pretty well take care of them. So for all of us here at Jennings Wing Cars, Jason Fruit's our video producer behind the camera that I mentioned constantly. Matt Johnson sitting here today, our shop foreman, and myself. I'm Bob Jennings. I hope that reference material is giving you what you wanted. And until next time, I'll see you around the country. Hey, remind you, we will be at Chrysler Carlisle at the Chrysler Nationals in July. We hope to be at Western Mopar Madness in Edmonton, Alberta, also in July with our Black Ice Superbird that I'm hoping to take on to the Arctic Ocean. We'll see how that works out. Having some physical issues that may preclude that, but we also are having the Mo-Powered Tour here on June 13th, I believe. The part of the Hot Rod Power Tour, and we'll be hosting the Mo-Power portion of that here in the shop on June 13th of 2024, and you're welcome to come see that. But until then, for all of us here, yes, that is a Hemi sitting here on an engine stand behind me. It is the Hemi out of our race car Superbird. But until next time, I'm Bob Jennings. Thanks, everybody. Hope this has been useful.